Hey sketchy friends, so in today's video I wanted to do another minimalist pub sketch. I did do one a few weeks ago and I was really happy with how it came out. It was a bit of an accident, but it was, I thought, really cool. And I kind of had this idea of doing a series of pubs in this way, not necessarily as YouTube videos, but just as a series of illustrations. I am actually leaving for the UK mid-September. Me and Duncan are going straight up to Scotland and we're going to drive the North Coast 500. And then after that, we come down to London to go to one of my friend's weddings. And then we get a few days just to hang out in London, which will be awesome. So I kind of had in my head that maybe I'd even go and give these illustrations to the pubs and that that would be really cool. I'm quite a shy person. I'm quite introverted, so I don't know whether I'm actually going to do that or not, but it could be kind of cool. We do want to go on a bit of a mission around the London pubs, so yeah, we'll see. I'll keep you guys informed if I'm brave enough to do that. So today I'm focusing on this pub. I just thought it was really pretty. I've never been here. It is called Skellans in Nunhead, and actually when I was looking it up I realised that it was voted like the best pub in London or something in this year, I think. Yeah, that was just a happy accident, but either way it's very beautiful. So the purpose of this video is just to kind of talk about how to go about drawing something but not drawing all of it, and how you can kind of style it out, basically how you can make it still look really good, and so people don't look at it and go, it seems a bit unfinished, but actually they can tell it's a very deliberate style. This is something I'm working through kind of organically. I haven't sort of, consciously thought I'm going to develop this style, but it's just something that's really interesting me at current. So I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to follow that interest, and hopefully it's interesting to you guys as well. So I do have a whole video on minimalist urban sketches, along with some tips at the end of that video about minimalist urban sketching. So do go and check that video out as well. Then I do have the other video about the horseshoe pub, also a minimalist kind of sketch. And then this one here where I'm just going to go a bit deeper, a bit further, go into more of the specifics on this sketch. I did kind of get my iPad out and I had the photo and I was kind of like sketching over it, and I'm like, which bits would I include, which bits wouldn't I include? And I had this whole grand plan, and then I realised that I got my paper out and I'm really enjoying this paper at the moment. I used the same pad for the previous minimalist pub sketch. This is the Etcher A5 cold press watercolour block. So it's not a sketchbook as such, it's a block of watercolour paper, 20 sheets, and it's 50% cotton, but it's just so good. I just really love how the watercolour is laying down on this paper. I'm actually tempted to get an A4 version when I'm over in the UK. So anyway, I got off the point there, but I realised actually when I got this A5 block out to work on it, and A5 is about 5.8 by 8.3 inches, just for the Americans in the audience. So A5 is not very big, and I had marked out on the photograph what I was going to draw just to kind of get my head around it, and I was like, that's just not gonna, it's not gonna come across on this pad of paper, I don't think. And I actually quite like drawing big. So anyway, so then I went on to sort of just do some rough kind of pencil sketches here. And I was like, okay, well, I could do the whole front from the bottom to the roof on my pad. Or what is the focus? For me, it's that beautiful turquoise colored door and the plants around it. Yeah, I was like, what if I just zoom in on that element and just make it really bold? So that's what I decided to do. So based on my very rough thumbnail, I decided to just focus on the door area and then just work up and outwards from that door and just kind of start feeling out what exactly it is that I want to include in this sketch. So from beginning to end, this sketch took me about an hour, or illustration should I say. And I am going to speed things up a little bit for you guys, just so that we can kind of get to the meat of the video and what I want to talk about. So once I'd finished with the pencil outline, I've mainly focused again on the door area and penciled in a few elements around it. And I'm just kind of making these decisions organically. So I'm starting with the thing that I really want to draw and really want to include in the sketch. And then I'm going to move outwards from there, tentatively adding bits just to see where things should stop or how it should flow. So it's interesting because in my monthly membership that some of you are members of, I do a lot of different demonstrations on different styles and techniques and that kind of thing. And sometimes when I'm doing voiceovers and I'm looking at the sketch, I'm like, do you know what? I could have stopped there and that would have been a real powerful sketch. But then I carry on. And, the end result is also fine. But it's just interesting looking back and watching the process and how the sketch comes together and thinking, it could have stopped a lot sooner. There's a lot that I didn't need to draw, and it could have been a more powerful sketch. So I'm really interested in that balance between how much you draw and how much you leave unsaid, and where that line is. I just think it's really, really fascinating. And that's what really draws me to this style as well. So I did talk about this in the other video about minimalist urban sketches as well, where I talk about a few of my favorite urban sketches that I'm aware of, at least, that have this kind of minimalist style, and they use a lot of white space and they don't draw everything in the scene and how they leave things unsaid. Yeah, absolutely fascinating. And I think it's a natural next step for when you've got past that stage of okay, I can pretty much draw and paint most scenes now to a level that I personally am happy with. Now, how do I take things further, or how do I evolve, or how do I find a style? And that's pretty much everything, that's pretty much what my membership is designed around. It's okay, yes, there are sort of more fundamental videos about, the fundamentals of drawing and painting and whatnot, but a lot of it's about okay, but now how do we go further, or how do we push outwards, or how do we break down our creative boundaries, and how do we find different styles and find our own style, and how do we just play with what we're doing a bit more? So if that's something that interests you, please do consider signing up for the membership. Very reasonable price per month, definitely for what you're getting, I feel. But yeah, do go check it out. So I am using a 0.1 fine liner here, and I'm trying to get the details correct as far as when you glance at the sketch. I mean, everything kind of looks like it's in the right place, which is great. But I'm not sweating the details too much, I'm just trying to get a rough impression of what's there. I definitely know that there's some of these posts, especially on the right side, that are I don't know actually if there's that many posts there, or I don't know if these squiggles are in the right place. But that's where the kind of term sketch comes in. It's more of an impression. It's not a realistic illustration. So, just try and infer things in the places that they are, but don't worry too much about whether you've got every little ornate detail perfectly correct and if you've got the right number of posts. I don't even worry about that. It's not important in the grand scheme of things. And I know that I've got that front blackboard on the front is much taller than it actually should be, and the windows above it should be much longer than they are. But again, it's really it's not going to bother me. I was is there a way I can fix this? And it's no, there's not really a way I can fix it. So I'm just going to leave it and I'm just going to roll with it. So don't get disheartened if you get certain things out of proportion. It doesn't matter. Keep going. No one's even going to notice. You're the only person that's really going to notice. Now, I don't often draw all of the bricks on something, but because this is a minimalist sketch, and because I'm probably only going to draw some parts of the wall, I am going to go there. I'm going to draw most of the bricks in, because I think that amount of detail is really going to offset the minimalist or white spaces where there's nothing drawn. So yeah, where there are things that are drawn, I'm going all in and I'm going to put quite a lot of detail in. And I think that's quite an interesting way of contrasting the bits that I've chosen not to draw. And I've got it in my mind that I don't want to draw the exact same bits on the left and the right side. So I want to kind of find some visual balance of like what I should draw on the left side of the pub and what I should draw on the right side of the pub. Otherwise I feel like it would just be a bit too obvious if I just draw the same areas on both sides, and I want it to be a bit more playful than that. So, you know, I'm kind of making these decisions on the fly really, and I guess sometimes that's why, you know, something like this might take a little bit longer because I don't have a plan as such. I don't have everything figured out. I'm just kind of drawing it bit by bit and being like, does that work? And like, what should I do next? And that kind of thing. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. So I've switched back to the pencil just to give me that kind of flexibility of changing my mind if I don't feel like I'm going down the right avenue. And it's really fun. It's like quite experimental. It's like, oh, what should I do next? Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe this will work. And then, you know, I'm perfectly prepared to like erase it if I don't think it's going to work and try something else. But no, I'm pretty happy with that window up there and I'm quite committed that I want it there. So I've just moved back to my pen to draw that in. What I'm really trying to focus on is getting that sense of depth of the windows. So you've got the brick and then you've got the inside of the brick before the window frame starts. And then then you can see the inside bit of the window frame, but only on the left side. And that really emphasizes the fact that you're looking up and to the left, that you can just see the depth of the window frame and the brick wall only on the left side of the windows. Little details like that really give the sketch like a really, how many times can I say really? It gives I've got to ban that word from my vocabulary. It gives the sketch a really nice sense of depth. It's a small detail, but one that's worth trying to capture. I think I need to slow down my talking and then I can try and cut out these filler words like really. And the amount of time I spend editing my voiceover to get rid of the ums and the ers is, yeah, that's a lot of time of my life spent editing that stuff out. So maybe I just really need to train myself to not say these kinds of words. It's so much harder than you would ever think. So now, because I've drawn the windows on the top left of the building, I've decided that I'm gonna balance it out with drawing more of the picture on the bottom right-hand side. So I think it kind of gives it a bit of a balance. So you've got that kind of diagonal kind of balance between the two sides. You know, it's also could look a bit weird, so I'm just rolling with it at the moment. But if I need to add more details in other parts of the building to make it look less weird, then that's what I'll do. So I'm just, as you can see, I'm just doing one step at a time, and then I'm drawing it, and I'm like, okay, cool, that looks okay. Now I'll draw another bit. So I'm happy with how it's looking at the moment, but I do feel like there needs to be some other elements on the page, but I'm not sure what yet. So for now, I've switched to my black brush pen to fill in some solid areas of black. I really want this illustration to be quite dynamic and to pop off the page. So I'm really getting in there with the black brush pen. It looks really high contrast and really nice. And I have sort of made the black area on the front there the size it should be, and I've left this little gap because I'm like, maybe there is a way I can still fix it. But in the end, I think I'll decide that there's just no way to do anything there. So I think I ended up filling up that bit in black, but that's what it should have looked like. I think I must have just zoned out and then drawn it before I sort of really realised that it was a little bit out of proportion. So this video is not sponsored by Etcher, by the way, but here I am using an Etcher paintbrush as well. I really like the two paintbrushes I have from them. I got this stuff all in their beginner's set, which they sent to me to check out. And yeah, I really like this watercolor block, and I really like the paintbrushes that were included. So I got 3 paintbrushes. There's the round number 12, which is what I'm using now. There's the round number 6, which I do think I use later on. And there was a 1/2 inch flat brush. So they're really, really nice synthetic brushes. They just have a really nice point on them. And they're really great to use on this paper. So I think they do sell a whole set of watercolor brushes in a material wrap or something like that. I don't have them, but yeah, if you're looking for a set of nice brushes that aren't going to break the bank, then I think these are a good option. So just mentioning that as I happen to have one in my hand. But again, I promise you, this video is not sponsored by Etcher, but I do really like some of their stuff. So the colour I'm using on the walls, I'm just using a bit of a mixture of English red and Indian gold. They're just the colours that I happen to have in my set, but one is like a very orangey yellow. The other one's kind of like quite a brick red, I guess, colour. It's quite an opaque colour, the English red, but I did take it out of my set for a while. In fact, I did take it out before I went to New Zealand, and I really was annoyed with myself at that decision because there were so many things I painted where I was like, do you know what, that English red would have been perfect for this, but I don't have it. So yeah, I think you get so used to your colour choices that when you know, just recently over the last few months, I thought, oh, maybe I should just mix it up a bit because I've been using the same paint selection, same colour selection since 2020 now. Maybe I should change it up a bit. And I don't know why I decided to do that just before going on a massive trip to New Zealand, but there we go. But there are some colours that I've added to the set that I'm really enjoying, like the green gold that I've added in the foliage, which is that yellowy green. Love that colour, Daniel Smith. And then you can see I'm just sort of dabbing in a much darker version of green, which is the White Knight's colour, which is just called green. And in that way, it's kind of, I've got the light green on the top and then the darker green underneath, just where the shadows are, just very roughly, you know, nothing too hectic, just very simple impression. And here I'm using Moonglow, which is my other favourite colour, which I know people rave about, but I haven't tried it for so long. And then a friend of mine gave me a squeeze from their tube and I love it. So I am definitely going to be buying some Moonglow, also a Daniel Smith colour. I just really like it as my go-to kind of, I don't know, I guess I usually would have used maybe Payne's Grey or a bit of indigo or something, but I'm just really enjoying using Moonglow as like my purpley grey colour. I think it's really, really nice. And now just using a very watered down version of the Moonglow, which I just have on the palette there, just to add in some shadow areas on these white sections. And then I reached for my other palette because I've got Naples Yellow in there and I thought that would be a really nice colour for the sign, and I was like, okay, I can use it in the curtain as well. Naples Yellow is a bit of an opaque colour, so it has covered up my ink a little bit there, so I probably will have to go back over that again. And now I'm coming to this awesome turquoisey colour on the front of the building, and I've got this Winsor & Newton, I think it is, Cobalt Turquoise Light, I think it's called, again in this other smaller palette. But I felt like it was just a bit too blue, so I just mixed in a tiny bit of sap green with it, just to kind of give it a bit more of a greeny tinge rather than a straight up blue. So it's probably not exactly the same colour as what's on the front of the building, but it's close enough. So I've switched to the number 6 brush now, just to get a few of the tighter details in this scene. And just add a few more shadow areas and some of these darker bits on top of the wall here. So it's definitely not looking right to me at the moment, and I am trying to figure out why that is as I'm drawing this. So you can see now I've filled in the rest of that black rectangle with the black brush pen because I just felt like it just looked stupid. There was nothing I was going to be able to do with that. I've now switched to a 0.3 fine liner because I just want to thicken up some of the lines like we spoke about earlier, just to emphasize and just to bring a few bits forward. I've been trying to resist using too much of my Pitt Artist pens recently. I feel like I'm very reliant on them, and you know, I should try and do everything with watercolor. I don't know, I get these ideas in my mind sometimes. Anyway, but one did just pop out there just to add a couple of little shadow areas on the illustration. They just do such a great job. I do just love them so much. They're perfect for just adding these little shadow areas. So I'm feeling like it just stops quite abruptly at the top. So I do feel like I want to try and do something about that. And then just adding a bit of shadow, or a bit of moon glow, sorry, at the bottom, just to indicate the pavement. I've left that wall in front white space, like a negative space, but I'm also not sure about that decision yet either, because now it just looks like the pub's floating a bit. So I think I'm also going to do something about that. But for now, I'm doing my best to wrangle with this gel pen. I know so many of you have said to me, like, gel pens never work for me. I'm like, seriously, they intermittently work for me as well. But yeah, I did my best to get the white writing on there, and the all-important Guinness sign on the top of the building there too. And at this stage, yeah, it's just going around and just like capturing little bits and bobs, like adding thicker lines to places, adding more details, that kind of thing. But yeah, there's just something that's not quite right with it at the moment. But it's not until I added all of the colour and everything that I can really see that the initial plan I had for this is probably not going to work very well. So then I thought, okay, what if I just draw in some bricks on the top here, just to extend that wall further up? Just keep drawing, basically. Until I get in a little bit closer to the top of the page, just to try and balance things out a bit. And then I also thought I should probably add in some more bricks. I wasn't going to do all of the bricks, but I feel like maybe if I just add some on this wall, that it might help. And then I thought, well, actually, maybe I should just put some really loose watercolor at the top there and just let it drift off into nothingness. And maybe that would look really cool, and it would like balance out the shapes a bit more. And I'm really happy with that decision. I think that actually really works really nicely and gives the illustrations so much of a better shape overall. And it's funny how just making that little decision has like brought the whole thing together, and also then just painting in this wall, because I just didn't feel like it was really making too much sense. I think that those two decisions have really transformed this illustration to make it just sit on the page a lot better. So again, just very loosely scribbling in some lines with my thicker pen, just to add a bit more definition. I don't know, it's a stylistic decision really. I just wanted to add in a few more ink lines there. I'm kind of like doodling about now. I'm like, ooh, okay, does it need anything? And I start sort of scribbling with my pen. I start adding a few more darker areas, just trying to figure out what it needs. And now I'm coming in with a yellow paint marker. This is a Posca paint marker, just to add in some of those lovely yellow flowers on the foliage. And then I realised I do have a purple acrylic marker as well, from the children's set of paint markers I have. So adding in a few more of those purple flowers. And now I don't think this bit at the top here is quite dry yet, but I'm just going for it anyway. I'm just going to put in these bricks. And this is where I get really confused with the brick pattern. So it just takes me a lot longer than it should have done. I was just like, my eyes just couldn't focus on where these lines should be. So that is my finished illustration, or so I thought, because actually I decided that I needed to do something else. So I did actually carry on and put in the bricks, the rest of the bricks on the top left-hand side here around these windows, because I just felt like it looked a bit odd. I felt like I needed to put the bricks here and just continue the bricks here. And now I think it's looking really good. I think that's exactly what it needed. I think that's a really cool tip to end on, really, is that the bits that you do draw, throw loads of detail into them, like the bricks and stuff like that, and it just helps to contrast with the bits that you don't draw or paint, I think. So do let me know what you think of this illustration, guys. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. and whether this is a style that you are keen on trying out for yourselves. Do check out that monthly membership that I mentioned, where we do so many little demos and experiments like this. The link is in the description below. And also don't forget to pre-order my book, Beginner's Guide to Urban Sketching. It's going to be published at the end of 2023 in the US and Canada, available at the rest of the world at the end of January 2024. So do check that as well. All the links are in the description below, along with the link to this reference photo if you want to have a go at this yourself. Thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.